Is 50 Cent a top 10 rapper of all time? It's your man J Rod here, and this is a question I really need an answer to. Is 50 Cent a top 10 rapper of all time? I mean, a lot of times people don't give 50 the credit of a lyricist that he really deserves. 50 has some really dope lyrics. Just go listen to Many Men. But is 50 Cent a top 10 rapper of all time? He might be. Okay, let's start it off with Get Rich or Die Trying. One of the greatest albums of all time. Musical, period. I believe this is a top 10 rap album of all time. And if music, period, I think it's a top 50 album of all time. Wankster, In the Club, 21 Questions, Pimpin'. I mean, this album is amazing. One of 50 best works, and it really made 50 the superstar that he is. Biggest selling debut album of all time. Yo, this album right here, classic. Okay, then 50 came back and dropped The Massacre. Now, the thing about The Massacre is it doesn't get the love it deserves. But this album might have been up there with Get Rich or Die Trying if 50 didn't give his first 8 songs to Game. Game album was basically what The Massacre was supposed to be. 50 had to redo his whole album. And with those 7 songs, we're talking about The Massacre could have been another complete classic. But The Massacre as is almost a classic. It's really good. The biggest problem with this album, Candy Shop. I wish 50 never would have dropped Candy Shop as a song. Like, it's an okay song, but 50's a gangster, man. You feel me? If he would go do a female song, he should have kept it gangster, like 21 Question type. You feel me? That's the only problem. But besides that, this album is hard. Power, what it is, In a Position of Power. This is 50. Little Bit. This album is hard, man. Get in My Car. Yo, God Gave Me Style. The Massacre, great album. Man, looking back at Curtis, this album is so underrated, people. Follow My Lead. I'll Still Kill. And the banger, I get money. This album, we didn't get this album the respect it deserved. This album, but you know what? It was hip-hop fault because hip-hop was starting to get a lot softer. It was the alpha gangster energy was leaving. That alpha energy was leaving. Dudes was getting a lot softer. Clothes was getting tighter. You feel me? Dudes started doing lip rings, tongue rings. The game was getting soft. So 50 kind of was getting pushed out because the alpha energy was leaving. But if you go back to this album now, you'll be like, what? Was we under a trance or something? This album was fire, bruh. Now, at the time this album came out, 50 Cent, before I self-destruct, the game changed too much. The style of music changed. So this album wasn't as pleasing as it should have been. But looking back on it, this album also was fire. 50 was just too tough. And songs like Strong Enough and Hold On, it just wasn't hitting the same. But now listening to it, I'm like, these were classic songs. But you could tell how wise 50 is. He even put on this album before I self-destruct because he knew the game was changing. Fans just weren't enticed by the gangster, by who he was anymore. You know what I'm saying? The game was just changing. But if you go back and listen to this album, Baby by Me, you be like, what? This album was fire. Now, by the time Animal Ambition came out, 50 Cent was on to other things. He was already, focusing on power. He was doing other things. His mind was on taking on other things. But this was still a solid album, man. If you go back to Don't Worry About It, Hustler, man, it's classic 50 songs. And one thing made me respect about this album, respect about 50, period. At any point in time, he could have changed his style to whatever, hip-hop was going on. 50 stuck to his guns until the very end. It worked. If you really look at it, it worked. It produced a great career. This album is good. Now, the question is 50 a top 10 rapper of all time? Now, I'm going to say this. If we're going by people's personal favorites, I think 50 may be the one rapper that's in a lot of people's personal favorites. 50 is a lot of people's personal favorite rapper, but they wouldn't say he's the greatest rapper of all time. But just like me, 50 is in my personal favorite top 5 rappers of all time. But if I have to be realistic, is he one of the greatest rappers of all time? No. He's had one of the biggest impacts of all time. But top 10, to be pushing it. He's good enough. He has enough content. I wouldn't be mad at you for putting him in your top 10. I'm not mad at you. But he's definitely top 20. And if we're going by impact, period, only person I give more of an impact to probably is Pac. That's it. But 50's impact on hip hop is amazing. One of the greatest of all times. Influence out the roof. You feel me? And what he's doing as a hip hop mogul, crazy. 50, top 20.